Paltrocast.
How are you doing? Where are you?
I'm in New York, Long Island, New York. Is it a
Oh,
good afternoon for you right now?
it is. I know Long Island well. Lots of lovely, happy days there with Mike and the kids.
For
Yeah,
sure.
yeah, home from home. Whereabouts in Long Island?
A town called Long Beach. I don't think you ever played in Long Beach, but there's a chance you went to
Oh,
the beach here. It's like 10 minutes
yeah,
from Jones Beach.
yeah. Loved. I saw Mike play with Bob Dylan. Yeah, in Jones Beach. Yeah, were you there? You look too
I
young.
would I was not there, but I know that Bob Dylan is just one of the many greats that he played with. But
Yeah,
can I ask
of
you a question or two to get this started, Jules?
course. Yeah, go for it. Yeah, and
Okay, so Trey,
don't feel concerned because I know some people have been a bit hesitant with me, because of the circumstances. But despite being obviously extremely grief-stricken, I'm a very positive person. So
yes,
trying to practice gratitude over sorrow, being grateful for all the incredible times I've had with Mike. 39 years, Darren. So
for
it's
sure.
a long time. But yeah, so just f feel free. Ask me.
Well, I mean, you yourself are just very multifaceted. I believe the first time you performed in a band context with Mike was like 92. You're a college
Yeah.
professor. You co-founded the charity with Mike, et cetera, et cetera. If I say, hey, Jules Peters, what do you do for a living? Do you have an easy way of describing what your profession is?
That's a great starting question because when I was at university, a lot of my friends were going off into all the kinds of jobs that you go into. And when people would ask me, I would always hesitate and say it's very, very difficult to explain. But I think looking back, entrepreneur probably is the best way of explaining to me. I'm a product of working class parents who
Hmm.
became self-employed, and Mike was also the product of self-employed
Yeah.
parents, and we both lived there. Both our parents had businesses directly opposite each other in a small town. So I think Mike and I took that sort of entrepreneurial spirit into rock and roll, and we were so used to, being able to come up with an idea over a pint in the pub, and then the next morning to facilitate it, to work hard and deliver. And so we soon learned that we didn't really want to be part of the music industry because we preferred the idea of saying, let's record this album and let's find a cool studio and then let's release something and let's go on tour. So in 91, really, that's what happened. We thought we'll just create our own industry. We bought the chapel, which is where I'm sitting now, and it was Mike's recording studio and rehearsal room for over 20 years. And then during COVID, we converted it into 5 luxury apartments. So I'm sat in the Declaration Suite.
Yeah.
Um, the guys that work with me are in Strength next door. And so each apartment's named after an alarm album. And then at the back of the chapel is what was Mike's recording studio, and it's now a yoga and Pilates studio. But we did all of that when Mike was alive. So Mike was heavily involved in the
Sure.
styling of it. But we've got all memorabilia all over the walls of not just Mike, but a lot of Mike and the alarms and our travels all across the world. So we've become a little bit like Graceland, Darren. We sort of
Yeah.
it's hard to explain, but the village I live in, about 4 years ago, I bought the village pub. Mike thought it was crazy. Mike, who was the eternal, positive, optimistic man, turned around and thought I was crazy just for buying the pub when he's like taking me on the most crazy adventures around the world. So I went ahead and bought the pub without him, without his knowledge. And then I just announced to him that I bought the pub when I took him in there for a pint. So the last 3 years of Mike's life, we did have an amazing time because he loved the pub and he would come in and DJ on a Friday night and he'd buy loads of vinyl every week and try out the vinyl in the pub. So it's quite idyllic. We've got the pub, we've got the chapel, and directly opposite, Mike is buried in the graveyard. So it's very, very Welsh church, pub, graveyard, waterfall, 70-foot waterfall behind me. So I have very black humor, and I joke and say, I mean, my God, this last year's just been the most horrendous year of my life. And but you've got to get through it. You have to find a way. And I think because I'm fighting back with love and not feeling sorry for myself, focusing firmly on all that
Sure.
I want with Mike. But yeah, I joke, my life is pretty damn perfect, apart from the fact that the love of my life is dead. But this is a situation that lots of people find themselves in, and this isn't just about Mike's album Transformation, which he wrote in the last 6 months of his life. He
Yeah.
did he didn't this whole story of transformation, we're all transforming all of the time, and especially my generation, I'm going to be 60 next year. It's like, how do you go into the last chapter of your life with determination, positivity, confidence? We're all going to start losing people, it's a hard fact of life.
Right.
But it's how do we transition with that and still carry on leading our best lives? I feel like I'm kind of back at university because now I'm a widow, a rock and roll widow. I'm out every single night. I have different events on in the chapel next door, in the red next door, because I don't want to sit around on the sofa, without Mike. It just makes me too sad. So I'm like, okay, I need to. Mike was very much like, if you don't like your situation, do something about it. So that's what I'm
Sure.
doing. I'm doing something about it. I'm staying positive, keeping myself busy. And, in another year's time, I'm sure my grief will have transformed, there's the word again, into
Yes.
something hopefully a little bit more bearable. And the pain will ease and become more gentle. That's what people tell me. So keeping my fingers crossed, Darren, that's the way
Yeah.
it's going to go. Yeah.
Well, to repeat about the new album Transformation, that I felt, and this is a compliment. I felt that the subject line where they said, "Hey, do you want to speak with Jules?" The 12th and final Alarm album Transformation. Okay, I felt that that was selling short about everything that's going on because there was a couple of color sound records for
Uh,
starters.
that's
And
it.
then I'm talking to the creator of Big Night In, and
Oh, watch
you
the
were
big
the
night in.
subject of a couple of documentaries,
Yeah.
and there's all the guest appearances. To just say the 12th Alarm album, wouldn't you say like maybe it was the 19th or 20th album overall or something
Yeah,
like
that's a
that?
really good point. I like it. Yeah. You look too young to have been an alarm fan.
Well,
Are you a
here's
bit
the
of a
thing.
baby alarm fan?
I always felt that when you like an artist, you kind of go, who inspired them? Who were the bands or the artists that made them love that stuff? So
Yeah.
when there was alternative rock I liked as a teenager, I went, who inspired them? Oh, Cheap Trick and Big Star. Who inspired Cheap Trick and Big Star? The Beatles.
Yeah.
Who inspired the Beatles? Chuck Berry.
Yeah.
Who inspired Chuck Berry, etc.
Yeah.
So Mike would come up as a very influential artist and I
Okay.
would go, "Oh, that's where this came from."
Ah, okay. So you're a bit of a musicologist, really. Yeah.
I'm talking to an actual professor. I'm just a librarian. You're the proper professor. I mean, could we eventually see a college course taught about Mike and everything he did? Because I put him in that Bono realm where, yes, the music is great, but there
Yeah.
was the humanitarian aspect to it all that, in a
Yeah.
way, had a bigger impact than the music.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think really Mike's funeral was all about that. I think that's a lovely idea. I have big, big plans. In this chapel, I have the alarm archive. I have people who have
Mhm.
breathed and lived the alarm ever since they were 15, and they're my friends, and they come and they help me. They're staying in strength at the moment. And so we have so much of a story to tell. And the funeral, which you can watch on YouTube, and it is a lovely watch. I urge anyone to go and take a look because it really demonstrates the breadth of Mike's personality. And he was so much more than, in a way, a lot of people just knew Mike for Spirit of 76 or 68 Guns and that whole punk rock kind of 1983 to 1986. But he
Right.
was so much more than that. He would write these big ballads. He loved performing songs with an orchestra. And I feel like it's kind of my duty, don't get me wrong, I'm not going to be living this next phase of my life just talking about Mike, but I do feel because it's so much part of my life now. I'm 59. I was 19 when I first got on a plane and came to New York. Albany, upstate New York, was my first ever alarm gig, and I'm
Wow.
just this kid from a small town in North Wales, just like Mike was a kid, as in a small town in North Wales. And I think that was the appeal of Mike and continues to be the appeal of Mike, that he was this small town boy. The funeral again demonstrated that he was kind to everybody. He'd
Sure.
speak to the guy on the street, he'd speak to the president, the king. He got his MBE from the now King Charles. And I think it's my duty to just preserve that legacy forever. And we can do that here in the chapel in the red. I have American alarm fans visiting me all the time. It's been the most comfort to me. I'm at most at peace when I'm with the Alarm family because I grew up with them. I grew up going out into the crowd before I was in the band. I was reluctant, very reluctant to join the band, even though I'd always played classical piano as a little girl growing up.
Sure.
Didn't want to go into the band for all the reasons, Yoko Ono, Linda McCartney. And Mike said, if that is the reason why you're not going to come and play piano for me, then, this does not sound like the Jules that I know. So I thought, yeah, God damn it, I'm going to do it. And rock and roll is a challenge, to stay relevant, and we kept coming to America. We were touring 3 months a year, right the way, as more so than ever in the last 10 decades, because like I said,
Yeah.
Mike and I created our own industry, so we would be able to just go, right, let's book a tour bus, let's book the crew, let's apply for our visas. We were very hands-on with everything. We were kind of like a cottage industry, but you know what? It just
Yes.
made it more fun because Mike was real. He could go out and sing and perform, but he loved like getting the map out and planning what the tour was. And then he'd go to his agent in America and go, "This is the touring period. This is where I'd like to start." He was a brilliant record company guy. He was very strategic in the way that he planned everything. Everything was special, and I think that's why the Alarm fans have continued to love him. And still, I don't know if you know about the Gathering, which Mike and I created. Yeah, over 30.
Well, can I rudely interrupt you?
Yeah, of course.
So about the record company thing,
Yeah.
I one of the things I really enjoyed that the Alarm did was when they sent out that radio mailing under a different name to basically go, this is you're not going to play an old person, air quotes, old person band. You're going to like this and you're going to actually play that. And I've heard other bands trying to do that, but failing with that. But it looks like the Alarm was the first successful one with that.
Yeah, I think Mike was always so unbelievably passionate and dynamic about everything he did. It was hard to keep up with him, it was hard to keep up with his energy sometimes and his
Sure.
belief and his confidence. And I do say that America had a massive influence on his attitude, his can-do attitude. We felt very grateful to be able to come to America to have chats with people like you who would play the music, who would encourage Mike. And Mike always, he didn't have that cynicism that we can sometimes have in the UK. I mean, I'm proudly, proudly Welsh, and I love. There's nobody more sarcastic than me. But
Yeah,
genuinely and generally, Mike and I have an enthusiasm that maybe a lot of bands it dissipates over the years. But for Mike and I, it never did. Right up to Mike's dying day, stay curious, believe in yourself. Try it. If you fail, it doesn't matter. Better to have failed than not to have given it a go. And I think we came to America as very young kids, and we benefited from that attitude. So we're always very grateful to America, and we're grateful that we were able to bring our two sons, Dylan and Evan, to America since they were tiny, tiny babies, and they also have that big passion for America. But at the same time, they're very much I'd organized. We have Alarm fans all over America who have got, they've taught us to ski, and they've let us play golf, and so we've got all these
sure.
influential alarmies who all wanted to offer our
Alarm.
children jobs. And I
Yeah.
created this situation, but Dylan and Evan turned around and said, "Mum, we've traveled America since we were like 3 months old, and we love it, but now we love it here in North Wales, and this is where we want to stay." So I'm very lucky, and that's why we're getting through. We all work together, and I don't know if you've heard, but my youngest Evan is now presenting the Alarm himself, just like Mike used to put. Mike Peters presents the Alarm.
Sure.
Evan sang at Mike's funeral. He sang Wonderwall, which was the song that Mike taught him how to play. It was Mike's anthem in '95 when he was first diagnosed with blood cancer. And then we had this whole month of events in June. Mike died at the end of April. And in June, Mike had created, in that lovely inspirational way, he'd created a month of events to launch this album that we're all talking about now, Transformation. I knew he wasn't going to make it through, but he believed he was going to make it through. So he dies at the end of April, and I'm
Mhm.
faced with 4 weeks of presenting the new album to a grief-stricken Alarm family. I
Right.
don't quite know how we got through it, but you know what? It made me get up in the morning, set my alarm, get out over the door, the threshold, keep on living, keep on moving, keep facing forwards. And Evan came to me and said, "Can I perform at it? Can I sing at it?" I was like, "Oh my Lord, Evan, I'm not sure if this is where I, could envisage us all moving." Anyway, I've just come back off a week's tour in Scotland. Evan has appeared as special guest to Big Country up in
Mhm.
Scotland. and we're just preparing for a big UK tour in November and December where Evan walks out and he plays all the Alarm songs from 1980 right the way through to 2025 when Mike died, because Evan plays, at the moment, he plays Live Today off the Transformation album. He sounds just like Mike. He looks
Hmm.
like Mike. It's uncanny. It's something that it took my breath away in the beginning. It was definitely not what I saw in my future, but now I can see how much comfort it's bringing not only to me but to all the Alarm fans that have been coming to the gigs. It feels right, that it's in his DNA. He knows the lyrics, he knows the melodies. All those years of touring in America when he used to sit at the side of the stage. So my
Sure.
breath is a little bit surreal at the moment.
So you mentioned earlier this is where the archives are. Is there a lot of unreleased material? Could we be blessed with live and alternative versions and all that of the Alarm catalog?
Yeah, that's absolutely what's happening. Mike was a avid collector, but to think there's only 8 melodies in an octave. Oh my goodness, he just kept churning out the songs. So with each album, he would always write so many songs, and then he'd have to narrow it down to 12, extra B-sides. He loved a B-side,
Sure.
Mike. He loved making things special for the fans. So we have lots and lots. He would mark all the little, DAT tapes, and that's what we're doing. He kept everything pretty regimented. He was very much that guy who had all his vinyl, all his CDs in alphabetical order. Very anal about his record collection,
Yeah.
and he's been the same. He was someone who kept all the cuttings. So we have books and books and books. So we're in the process of scanning everything, and then we'll be launching it all online, the archive. But the beauty of it is, as an Alarm fan or a music fan, you can come and visit us in the village. I don't really think there's, obviously you've got Gracelands, but I don't think you've ever got a situation where, this is where Mike was born, in this village. This is where he died. This is where all his music is. I haven't had chance to even like explain properly what I'm doing, but I'm really ambitious about it because you know what? It's lovely. Me and the guys who I keep saying are in next door in Strength.
Right.
We are really busy with. We're just about to deliver the third part of Mike's autobiography, Strength, which he was able to complete in the last year of his life. We're really busy. I have other work that I should be doing, but you know what? We all keep coming back to, no matter how busy we are. The thing we love doing every day is on this day in Mike Peters and the Alarm history, because every day we look and there's like a list of choices. Mike singing with the orchestra, Mike
Yeah.
on a mountainside, Mike in the middle of New York City in Times Square, because the guy just kept coming up with this passion for life and ideas. But unlike a lot of people, he was the ideas man, but then he'd see it through. And so we just want to honor all of that. So we love, like, where today we were in Glastonbury 10 years ago, and
Hmm.
that will be the update today. And it was the muddiest Glastonbury ever. And because I'm like a proper documenter,
Yes.
everyone takes the piss out of me because I take so many photographs. But
Not me. Not me.
no, good. Thank you.
Well, if I could turn that into a compliment, and then I have one more question for you if you're not in a rush.
No,
Uh,
I'm fine. You go ahead. It's nice talking to you.
I think that as a rock fan, you have to think about the legacies of bands. And the legacy isn't always tied to how much success the person had when they were alive. It often
Yeah,
has to do with how the estate is managed, how the catalog is managed.
yeah,
Sometimes you find bands who are much bigger gone, for
yeah,
example, The
true.
Doors or Jimi Hendrix, and
Yeah,
how
point.
50 plus years later we're still getting unreleased material and there's posters and there's shirts. And then the opposite, one of my favorite bands ever, Van Halen, how
Yeah,
poorly the legacy is handled and how basically
yeah.
fans had to bootleg and release all the unreleased stuff because the
Ah,
band
really?
wouldn't.
Oh, okay. Wow.
So
Yeah,
you've kind of taken that smart Hendrix, Sublime, Jim Morrison kind of approach to having the stuff, putting it out there, and keeping the fans in the loop. So that's the compliment.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot to me because, yeah, like I say, there was never really a division between me and Mike and the fans, and it's more for the fans to tell you that than me. But it was a genuine mutual respect. So the gathering reflected that really. It was like we want you to come and hang out in our hometown. We realise that our lovely life is down to you caring and believing in us. So it was always a beautiful thing. And of course, because everyone knew me and I was the keyboard player, I always I say in present tense, time for everyone. We started the Alarm Fan Club we took it over from people who ran the Alarm Fan Club in 91. And it was run by my dad. And my dad was 50 when he took it over. And he's still alive. He's 86. And my dad's the
Hmm.
kindest, most humble man ever. And he still answers the phone and he'll speak to, he's managed the Alarm fan base through divorces and mortgages and so I think
Sure.
for people following the alarm, it's like Mike and then his immediate family were the real deal, and everything that he sang about, he kind of demonstrated it in the way he lived his life day to day, and so it is continuing as I realized, the gathering. I mean, on Mike's deathbed, we managed to get him home, and he died in the April, but I had the gathering booked for January, which we'd sold all the tickets for. And I was like, how am I going to pull a gathering off without Mike? But of course, the gathering is kind of by the fans, for the fans. And no one asked for a refund. And Evan turned to me and said, Mum, I can do it. And I said, Oh, Ev, you're only 18. You've just lost your dad. You're very close to your father. And he said, I can do it. And Evan is like Mike. So January, the end of January, we're all grief stricken. Walked
Hmm.
out on that stage, over 1,000 alarm fans assembled together. Not a dry eye in the house, but it all made sense. Father to son. Mike wrote that song, Father to Son. It's like he's passed the baton over. So now I'm faced with like, I have a lot to do,
Yeah.
we're just about to launch the gathering for North Wales, which is going to take place in January next year at the newly named and appointed Mike Peters Arena. So, when we talk about legacy, that's what come from our local council. They've named it after Mike. It's situated a stone's throw away from where Mike grew up. He was born in the village here, but like 2.5 miles down the road on the beach is where Mike was raised for his early formative years. So it's a
Yeah.
beautiful thing that in January, Evan will be leading the way, singing his dad's songs, hopefully writing a few of his own. We've got all the unreleased songs to concentrate on. We've got Record Store Day that we need to get, in Record Store Day just gone. We like the way we be
Mhm.
getting through our grief is just bulldozing through. It's like, let's release Feel Free. Feel Free was Mike's third solo album. And I can't believe this is how old we are. It was the 30th anniversary this year. So we
Right.
put a spectacular release because guess what? Mike loved Record Store Day. He came up with the crazy idea, which I must admit, Darren, I was like, oh my God, why do we have to do this? He loved events and ideas. So we flew
Yeah.
for Record Store Day in, I think it was 2019, and he wanted to play Cardiff, which is our capital city, London, New York, Los Angeles in 24 hours. I kid you not. And that's what we did.
So
And
he broke the record of, I think it was Def Leppard who
where
did.
was it?
Def Leppard, I think, did three cities in a day. I think Fozzy did three. I
Oh,
think
okay.
Mike has the record on that one.
Oh, right. I didn't know that. Yeah, and that's what he was like, and he told me that when we were in Aspen, because
Yeah.
again, this alarm girl said, when you want to ski, come and stay in Aspen with me. So I was the wrong person to say that to because guess what? I was like, hello, Peter's family, we're ready to come and be taught how to ski.
Yeah.
She put the phone down and went, holy shit. She probably didn't really mean that we could go, but I took her up on her offer. She
Yeah.
put the phone down. She phoned another guy he's a mate of mine now called Patrick. He was from no, Pleasantville. You know Pleasantville?
Yeah.
Yeah, upstate New York. I
Oh,
think.
yeah.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I know a lot about upstate New York.
Well, he had moved. He had moved from Pleasantville to Aspen to become a ski instructor after
Sure.
9/11. He'd just completely changed his life. He was earning loads of money in the city and thought, this is not what I want out of life. And he went to Aspen, became a ski instructor. And Mike Peters was his ultimate hero. And guess what? Next minute, he was there with the big stick that they give you when you're learning to ski, with
Yeah,
Mike clinging on to the end of it, and Patrick teaching his hero how to ski. It's a beautiful thing. And I think that's the most important thing for us, that yes, I'm devastated. Yes, I can't believe that Mike isn't here by my side, or Mike isn't doing this interview with you. It it's unfathomable, but this is life. This is what happens. Mike said to me, he never believed he was going to die, but he said he used to call me Trixie Vixie because that was my kind of nickname for always, doing the deals, and because we were
sure.
self-employed our whole life. Trixie Vixie, I'm gonna have to die sometime. I said to him after his diagnosis, I was like, oh Mike, how am I gonna live my life without you? And he said, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going to die. He said, but one day I'll have to die. But you know what, Trixie? Everything will be okay. That's what he said to me. And I can say that to you now, like I'm just over a year since he's passed.
Right.
I'm making progress. I can say that to you without falling apart and bursting into tears. It's only now that I mean, I want to do a whole separate podcast about grief because I'm very, very open on my socials about how tough this is, how every morning I wake up and it's hell. It's hell. You wake up. It's like, if you've had a really bad nightmare and then you wake up and you're like, oh, thank God, it was just a nightmare. But it's the flip. It's like you wake up and you're like, oh my God, it's my life.
It's real. Yeah.
Yeah. But what happens is, to give people confidence following in my footsteps, you have to get up. Yeah, that's my way of dealing with it. Don't stay around wallowing in bed and feeling sorry for yourself. You can only save yourself. No one can save me from myself. I have to do it. So I drag myself out of bed feeling really, really terrible. But by the time I've got up, I've listened to the radio, I've engaged with another human being, I've sorted the dog out, I've stepped over the threshold, then by 9 o'clock, things are feeling a bit lighter. By now, I'm absolutely fine. It's
True.
3:30 in the afternoon. Small steps, small steps. Don't expect too much of yourself. And I think, all of us, we need to accept that we're on a one-way ticket. There's nothing we can do about that. So yeah, my whole outlook is positive and confident. I want to, I'm lucky I can breathe today. I saw my husband die at home, holding his hand. I love you, I love you, I love you. Nothing. God,
Yeah.
nothing. Once you've experienced that, your life has changed forever. But what it does mean, I'm a breast cancer survivor as well, 10 years breast
Yes.
cancer survivor next month. While we're chatting, I've got all breast cancer survivors in the pub, all meeting. So because I really truly believe, I'm all about community. That's why I've loved being part of the Alarm, because it's all about community. It's about people coming together, like-minded people, and helping each other through this complex journey of life, where we have unbelievable highs, unbelievable lows. But Mike was always very good at just saying, Trixie, don't get too excited by the highs or too despondent by the lows.
Right.
Yeah, and I used to
Consistency.
say,
Yes.
I like getting excited by the highs, Mike. And he was like, yeah, but don't get too despondent by the lows because everything generally can be fixed. He was a firm believer that in life, if you weren't happy, don't sit around moaning about it. Do something about it. Change it. He was very much all about live today. That's the song on his album, Transformation. Live today. He didn't want to live forever. None of us can live forever, but we can live today and be present. Love the people that you love. Step away from the people that you don't love. Time is short, and that's our main precious commodity. There's only so much money you need. You need security, don't you? You don't need oodles of money, especially as you get older. You just when life is simplified and when you see someone die, you can't take anything with you. You've
Yeah.
Yeah, you just like me, I can travel with a little backpack. That's why we love touring. We loved being on a 2-month tour to America. And when Mike was diagnosed in April 2024, I don't know if you knew, but we were days away from jumping on a plane to come to fly into Chicago and embark on a 2-month, 8 weeks exactly, massive American tour. We were playing something ridiculous like 55 shows. And Mike so badly wanted to do it. I so badly wanted to do it. But and Mike found a lump, but it was a
Yeah.
very big lump. And we
I
were,
remember getting the press releases from your great team over there. So,
yeah,
yeah, I think that's when we knew when he wasn't able to do a tour that something was up, unfortunately. But
yeah. And we tried,
I
I
just had one more question for
oh,
you, and then
yes,
I was going to be mindful of your time and let you go, Jules, if
uh,
that's okay.
no,
And
of course.
that question for you, because you have such a positive, driven mindset and a realistic mindset. I was curious if you could recommend a particular book that actually got you to where you are right now.
That's a good question, but I would say no. There's no book, but maybe I will. Well, I am writing my own book, but I would say, yeah, Mike and I always said we've all carving out our own story. We can take opinions and experiences from other people to either fortify ourselves and think, oh, okay, I am going to be okay because,
Yeah.
so and so is getting through grief, or so and so has got through leukemia. I always like to meet people that have the same positive outlook. But I've never, I'm not one for a lot of self-help books. I know they help a lot of people. So I'm not, it's again, different courses for horses. But I firmly believe the best way of getting through whatever calamity it is that we all find ourselves faced with at certain points is to stay connected and not cut yourself off from people. Don't be afraid to just say, I'm really struggling. We all struggle. Don't hide it away. Just be, I'm open on social media, so I get everyone coming to me and helping me in the morning. There's a load of comments, there's a load of advice. That's kind of like my self-help book. But also, I say, walk and talk, our charity, Love, Hope, Strength. It's all about trying to keep people connected. If once you become lonely, you become isolated. And then just something that's happening to you can feel overwhelming that you're never ever going to be able to recover. But in fact, when you start talking to I've just been in the pub and I've just met this new woman, and her husband died, then she met a new guy, and then she split up from him. She's exactly the same age as me. And just in that half an hour of chatting to each other, I'm not alone. There's a million people like me who've lost their big love. So that gives me the confidence to know that I will survive. I will get through this. But I think, I'm a firm believer in just a simple thing as a good walk. If you've got a friend that you can walk with, even better, or headphones on. And I like listening to the news. I just think that I'll tell you what we all need is perspective. And when you stop connecting with people, you lose your perspective and then you start going under. Whereas when you talk to people and I hear about other people's grief, I'm like, Jules, you're not the only one. You're not alone. And if we're all together, we can get together stronger, is a big phrase that we say in Wales, for the Welsh football team.
Yeah.
Together, stronger. And that's what I would say to anyone. And if anyone is struggling out there with a cancer diagnosis, take comfort from Mike Peters. He was diagnosed in 1995 when he was 35 years age, and he passed away 30, 45, 31 years later at 66. I know all of us feel like he's been taken from us too soon, but maybe we were lucky to have him as long as we did. Yeah. All those spins around the sun and that energy that he gave off. And I think, if anyone's struggling, come to lovehopestrength.org. That's the charity that we run. There's a place where you can email us or email me, alarmcalling@mac.com. I'm all about, come to me if you've got a problem. I'll do my best to just say, you're going to be okay. It might be a bit of a tough journey, but ultimately, we're all going to be okay.
Paltrocast.